We will begin the meeting now. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The beginning of every board meeting, we like to go over our district's mission and our vision. Our mission is to create a culture of academic excellence through inclusive and innovative learning opportunities for the whole child. And our vision is to empower all learners to reach their full potential in a globally competitive world. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Dr. Steger, for your motion. Thank you, Dr. James, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Any adds, changes? Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. We have a very important recognition this evening. We have Sycamore High School swimming state champion here today. Addie, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Robillard. Robillard,
Yes.
sorry. I said it wrong. Is Addie here?
Yes, and
Great.
Mr. Ovington is here with also swim coach Dan Carl, so I won't steal any of their thunder. I got to watch Addie swim a couple of times and it's very impressive. So I'll let them take over and talk about her accolades, but we are very excited I will be very excited to watch her swim at Stanford. So.
Yeah, so thank you for having us, first of all. Obviously, we're very excited for Addie. For us, this is a huge deal. Anytime you have a state champion, it's a huge deal, obviously, in any sport. But especially we want to celebrate Addie. But even for Addie, like, it's a big deal for Sycamore, but for Addie, she's got huge dreams, Olympic dreams. I'm listening back there to her mom and her tell stories about a meet from like this last weekend, Katie Ledecky's there and so on and so forth. So she's around that type of talent. This is kind of a once in a lifetime athlete here that we're celebrating today. So while she did win a state championship, obviously, she has so much more to achieve in her life. We're really excited to see that. I had the privilege of getting to know Addie this year. This is her first year swimming for Sycamore. And just her parents and her are just tremendous people. Every meet we came to, they would say how much fun Addie's having this year, how much fun she's had with the girls and the boys on the team, and Coach Carl. And I think she had a great experience this year with our athletes. And I think it was actually our pep rally we did where we celebrated her and the other GMC. There were so many people that were just excited to have her in the building. I remember a couple of athletes that wanted to bring her into the school day and like have her come to some of her bells just because she built such great relationships with our kids. And I've told her this before, and her parents as well, of like, you know, she had a great year this year, but what's going to happen is she's going to carry on her legacy with the younger swimmers. Some of her relays she was in with freshmen and sophomores. And I think what they'll see is the work ethic she has, the passion she has, and hopefully that carries over for her and at Stanford, but also carries over for our athletes here at Sycamore in years to come. So really excited for Addie. Coach Carl's here also say a few words. I'll let him go as well.
Yeah, first of all, I'll just say two-time state champion because she won both of her individual events. Probably, well, she set 4 school records this year in 4 events, maybe 4. Addie is as equally driven academically as she is athletically, and that's always important to me. As Andrew mentioned, she has big aspirations all the way to the Olympic Games, and she is a legitimate potential candidate for that. She is on our national team. This past weekend, she was swimming in the lane next to the gold medal champion from 12 months ago, 12 months ago, 10 months ago. So that shows you at the level that she's at. Academically, she is studying neuroscience at Stanford. So it shows you the direction that she wants to go and that her talents are not just in the pool. She'll represent Sycamore very well in all aspects of life. Final note, unbelievable young lady that, as Andrew touched on there, well liked by even the freshmen. And she made herself welcome and open. And a lot of times freshmen don't want to, talk to the seniors. Seniors don't talk to the freshmen. That was not her. She had as many friends, freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, and I think that speaks to her character. But again, talent in the pool is undeniable, but talent in the rest of her life is undeniable as well.
As you're talking, I'm actually thinking of a story, you probably remember this, but it was at GMC's at Mason. And I'm standing there watching us and like whatever was going on, and you were kind of like walking by, and there was two kids from some other team. And I literally stared, I was like, is that Addie Robillard? Is that Addie Robillard? Can I get a picture with her? Can I get a picture with her? Like, they went up to you, like, can we get a picture with this? And you're like, yeah, sure, why not? And you took a picture and moved on, but it's her personality. She's very humble, but obviously has high aspirations. We're just really proud of her. So I'd celebrate her today. So congratulations. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we don't, we can't not recognize safety. But we have two big things for you, like, one, once you're an aviator, you're always an aviator, so when you are home on breaks, if you need a place to swim, call Dan Carl, he'll let you in the pool, we'll get you in. We said the same thing to Carson Foster, when he's home, come swim, because you do have training and things that you can impart on the athletes while you're still training, so pool is always open for you. And we would love to hang your banner on the other side of the pool next to all the banners that are up there. So, but we have a gift for you. It's a very large ring that lists both state championships on it, so.
Congratulations, Addie. That's incredible. And you're going to go out there and do amazing things. Thank you. Okay, we have another very exciting introduction this evening. We have Mr. Greg Ottebaum, who's going to be the Sycamore High School principal.
Yeah, exciting to welcome back Mr. Pottebaum to Sycamore, because Mr. Pottebaum was a former Sycamore High School teacher. And Mr. Pottebaum has never left teaching. And when I say that, one of the things that was so impressive during his interview process is he is currently teaching AP stats because they could not find a suitable replacement for someone that had to be out on a medical leave. So he stepped up in his own building to teach AP stats. Now, what he told me is, I forgot how much work it is to get prepared for a class to teach AP stats. So he has not forgotten what it's like to be in the classroom, because currently he's still in it. But he was here until 2017 as a math teacher, and he has spent the last 8 years, 5 years as an assistant principal, and the last 3 as principal of West Claremont High School. So we are very excited to bring him back home and have him as Sycamore High School principal. So.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I didn't realize I'd have to follow this. Yes, pretty incredible. That's amazing. Awesome thing. Stanford and all of that is just, wow, it's so impressive. Make me lose all my trains of thought. Yeah, when I left here 8 years ago, I never thought I'd have the opportunity to return. And I'm so honored and humbled to be able to come back to Sycamore. It is like coming home. I always thought one day it might happen, but you never know. And I'm just really excited to get my hands dirty and hit the ground running and work with the amazing people that I know are at Sycamore High School and help make this the best high school in the state. So I really think that it should be, and I think that should be our focus. So I'm just excited and humbled, and sorry I had to follow you, but it's students like you that make it so exciting. That's why I think back to all the people that I coached and I taught at Sycamore back in the day. It's just how impressive the kids are. So it's really exciting. Students like you. But thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but welcome home. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you, and welcome back to Sycamore. Welcome home. Okay, our next item is the OSBA award presentation. We have Mr. Mark Ewing with the Ohio School Boards Association here today.
I was surprised by Mark Ewing on the way here because we went from one award presentation to two award presentations for our school board. So Mark, take it away. I'll tell you what, sorry, Mark, we put you at the cleanup spot there, so.
Well, I'm here to present a couple of awards. OSBA has a Master Board Member award, and it's broken into four sections. It's the Star Award, so service training. That thing where you take a test
Achievement.
Uh-huh.
and recognition. Yeah, I'm all blown up here.
Those are the
So anyway, Sarah has earned the T, which is the training portion of the award. So when she completes the other leg, she'll become a Master Board Member, and that's a lifetime achievement. Sarah? Thank you. Thanks.
Congratulations, Sarah.
Mhm.
So the next award is for Veteran Board Member Service Award. 10-year service award for Paul Ballin.
Congratulations. Mark, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mom.
Appreciate you making the trip.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I wasn't exactly, thank you. I was not exactly expecting that, but thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so our next item on the agenda this evening is public participation. Mrs. Logan, do we have any public participation?
We do. We have a few that have signed up for non-agenda items. And then we also have one that signed up for an agenda item. So the first person on our list is, well, you go ahead. You've got your.
No, I have been reading. I think most of you here have heard me say it. You have 3 minutes to speak. And Mr. Harris will time you. Please just try to stay within 3 minutes. Please, obviously, be respectful. Do not attack board members individually. Speak with me, please. And we're not supposed to compliment or disparage employees of the district. Those are the general, that's the gist of what I usually read. So I don't believe anyone here will do that, but that's what I typically read. So please stick to that and we will continue.
So our first participant is Jenny Godby. Okay.
Want me to stand here or over there?
You can stand up here. You could, right there, over here. That way that you can be on the camera. Yeah, thank you.
And I'm supposed to state my name and address?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Your name and address.
Okay. Jenny Godby, 11568 Sims Gate Lane. Good evening. I am a mom of a 9th grade, minimally speaking autistic student who's been attending Sycamore School since kindergarten. Every year, my son writes a letter to introduce himself to his new teachers, and I'd like to read you the letter he wrote at the beginning of this year. Dear teachers, hope you had a nice summer and feel ready to make it a great school year together. I feel ready and nervous to start my high school career. Here are 10 things to know about me. 1, I'd love to be challenged with numbers and letters. It is even better with languages. 2, please believe in me. If my teachers don't, then who will help me succeed? 3, help me find my friends and clubs. I am ready to do it all. 4, let me have my safe space to find myself when I am overwhelmed. Sometimes I need to calm down. 5, can't always communicate what I want to say. Let me find my words. Don't speak for me. 6, you don't need to go easy on me. I am smart and ready to do it all. 7, make sure you have fun with me. I love to laugh. 8, it's not fun to hear someone talking about you, so please don't do that to me. 9, I want to get my answers shared in class. Please help with that. 10, ready to try new things. There is so much I can't wait to try. Let's have a great year together. Within 30 days of the first day of school, this same child who loves to learn was placed under threat assessment and subsequently suspended 3 times over the course of the next several months. These decisions were made by members of the administration team that had never met my son, read his IEP, or had any special education background. My son struggles from body dyspraxia, motor planning, and severe communication deficits. He needed help that his disability requires, not punishment. He's faced some of these challenges in previous years as well, but was never met with this type of response from the administration in other buildings. The purpose of suspensions is to convey to a student the seriousness of their behavior so that they can modify it. This approach simply does not work for a neurodivergent student desperately trying to control a body that doesn't always listen, or who wants to participate in class alongside his peers, but has no one who is capable of supporting his communication style. His special education teachers have worked hard to help him turn things around, but it is a slow process to undo traumatizing events, especially for neurodivergent students. And this is not just my child. A letter written by the Office of Special Education Program states, despite the evidence that using positive, proactive strategies can reduce rates of discipline and improve school climate and student outcomes, there remain notable disparities in the use of school discipline for children with disabilities compared with their non-disabled peers. I see familiar faces today, as not too long ago, I joined many other parents like myself on Zoom calls to listen to board member candidates share with us, the Sycamore special education community, that you cared about our students and our concerns, and that if elected, you would stand with us when we expressed our needs. And we ask that you make good on that today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Christina Markowitz.
Said it perfectly.
Christina Markowitz, 10333 Deerfield Road. Good evening and thank you to the board. My name is Christina Markowitz. I am the mother of 2 children in the district who receive special education services. Tonight, I am here to be a voice for my oldest son, who is currently placed outside of the district by Sycamore schools due to his educational and behavioral needs. My son has non-speaking autism and other conditions that impact his learning. I want to emphasize something. He's intelligent, he's reading at grade level. He learns so much when he's properly supported. In August of 2020, after thriving at Montgomery Elementary, thanks to dedicated teachers and aides, he entered Green Intermediate School. It was there for the first time in his life that he began to elope, leaving the building and running to nearby homes. This happened 3 times in the first few weeks. Each time, my husband and I were urgently called to retrieve him because staff lacked the tools or training to keep him safe. They didn't know how to support him in the classroom, and what he needed most, structure and consistency, was quickly lost. The message became really clear to my husband and I. Our son was no longer welcome. He missed 18 weeks of in-person instruction that and various attempts to reintegrate, including homebound instruction, ended in failure. The damage to his trust and teachers, staff took years to repair. Last year, we expressed interest in having him return back to Sycamore High School for 9th grade. The district informed us that accommodations like a quiet room and consistent support staff would not be available. This, despite his current school reporting incredible progress. He now only requires 1 aid and demonstrates strong self-regulation. Yet we feared that any small misstep would result in another abrupt removal. While his current placement has been life-changing to us, we continue to ask ourselves, could this have been avoided if Sycamore staff had the knowledge and training to understand his needs at the time? How many bright, curious, and capable students are being placed outside of the district? Not because they can't succeed, but because they are not prepared to be able to thrive at Sycamore schools. This brings me to 5 points for your consideration. Many students are placed outside of their home district due to lack of support. This is a systemic gap, not a student deficiency. We ask this district to invest in proactive, consistent training for all staff, general and special education alike. Out-of-district placements are costly and isolate students from their peers. With high staff turnovers and limited special education knowledge among several general education educators, we must scale this effort district-wide. Our request to the board, please support the full implementation of Communication for Education program across all buildings. And please help us
That's
build a district.
3 minutes.
That's your,
My son can stay, learn, and grow right here in their home community.
sorry, that was your.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Molly Hospelhorn?
You got it. Great.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Molly Hospelhorn. I live at 9016 Fox Center. I want to take this opportunity to share with you a training program called Communication for Education that was recently developed by an impressive collection of professionals in the field of special education. My family moved to Sycamore specifically for the amazing educators, innovation, and openness to diversity that the district offers. As the neurodiverse community grows, and a better understanding of how these learners can be supported in the classroom is developing, we ask that you continue your dedication to all students in our district by considering implementing this program for our educators. It is a comprehensive, first-of-its-kind training program that helps educators support neurodivergent students who are often unable to fully take part in the grade-level curriculum and to adequately show what they have learned. Many neurodivergent students also struggle with body regulation and sensory issues that can keep them from accessing or participating in the general education classroom. This is where Communication for Education comes in. This program is not methodology specific, but rather provides a broad foundation to address the needs of neurodivergent students. Topics include presuming competence, regulation strategies, relationship building, adapting academics, and building autonomy. This is a research-based program developed by professionals in the field of special education, such as college professors, special education teachers, behavior therapists, speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, psychologists, clinical social workers, a pediatrician, and more. Communication for Education will benefit our students, our educators, and our district. Our students will benefit from more inclusion and participation in the classroom and decreased mental health issues as they are viewed as competent participants in their education. Teachers benefit by gaining the knowledge and skills to better support their neurodiverse students in their classrooms and least restrictive environment. They will also receive CEUs from this course. The benefits of equipping our educators with this one course would continue year after year, as the foundational knowledge and skills gained apply to many of our special education students within the district while cutting back on repeated training as our students move from building to building. There are flexible options to complete the course, ranging from self-paced, live interactive, and hybrid options. Most importantly, from a cost and sustainability standpoint, access can be passed on to new staff after any turnover. We have copies of the professional contributors list of credentials, the research-based sources used, course schedule and outline, Sycamore teacher testimonials, and group pricing available for further review. Thank you so much for your time and attention to such a needed opportunity. Please let us know how we can partner with you to bring this training to our community.
Thank you.
Next, I have Cindy Burke.
10027 Winzag Lane. Good evening, Sycamore board members. My name is Cindy Burke. I'm the parent of a son on an IEP who is non-speaking and a unique learner. He'll be a sophomore next year, and I'm here to speak as both a mother and as an advocate. You just heard a brief overview of Communication for Education, CFE, from fellow parents. Now I'd like to share why this program means so much to families like mine and why it has the potential to make an even greater impact across our district. Many families, both here tonight and tuning in online, have voiced their strong support for training and the immediate need for it in our schools. This program builds a stronger foundation for everyone, educators, staff, and students. Right now, many of our educational staff members have limited training in special education. This isn't a criticism, it's a reality. In Ohio, there is no special education requirement for general education teachers, so it creates a tough start to the school year for both teachers and students. My son, for example, often begins each year surrounded by a brand new team, general education teachers, aides, and an intervention specialist who are unfamiliar with how he communicates. Because he is non-speaking, the learning curve is steep. It can take most of the school year before he starts to feel understood and settled, and by that time, it's time to start over again. With the training CFE provides, new educators would enter the year with a baseline of understanding. They'd be better equipped to support students like my son from day one, not only improving confidence and trust for students, but also making it easier for staff to implement IEPs and ensure real access to the curriculum. Another important point, more and more students who use alternative communication methods are going on to succeed in colleges and universities, but only when they've had consistent support and proper accommodations throughout their K through 12 years. That's what FAIT, free and appropriate public education, is all about. And that's what this program supports. It aligns with IDEA Part B funding requirements and reinforces the district's obligation to provide a meaningful education for every student. I want to acknowledge the efforts Sycamore has already made. This district has shown it's willing to listen, learn, and adapt. You've made changes when needed. You've worked to be more inclusive. What we're asking now is for you to take another powerful step. CFE is evidence-based, flexible, and forward-thinking. Just look at the range of contributors and the research behind it. It offers training that empowers not just compliance with the policy, but real skills that change outcomes. I'd like to close by sharing a message from my son, Luke. I'm thankful that my school team is talking to me this year. It's not always like this. You see, the buildings are all different. I feel the district can learn so much from these courses. The time it takes for teachers to understand me is the hardest to live through and is lost time. This course isn't about one technique. It is more for seeing the student for who they are. That's just one neurodivergent student who would benefit from this program. That's the kind of future we want for all of our kids. Thank you for your time and for considering this important step forward.
Thank you.
And I have some packets I'd like to give out to with additional information. I have two, I'll just let you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do that. Okay. I'm gonna take them and I'm gonna pass them out.
Next, I have Kelly Bruns. Bruns or Bruns? Bruns.
Hello, Kelly Bruns, 8965 Old Legend Court. And really, I just wanted to come up and say, I've been much more diligent at trying to engage with the school system after my kids have graduated and moved on. And, the school system was a big part of their success. So, we want to continue to have that not only for our kids, but also, to have a community where we all are united and stand behind our school district. And people like me, it's also important with my property. This needs to be a desirable place to live if I retire and want to sell my home or whatever. So the school district is important in many, many, many ways, most of all for our children. But I watched over, as we all have, the past, 5+ years, maybe 10, with Loveland. And every time a new levy comes up, we've seen it. It's brutal. It tears the community apart. And you see our elderly that can't afford the taxes on the house. If you're on a fixed income, and it puts their housing in jeopardy. So it really brings home the idea of fiscal responsibility. We've always been very proud to be in the Sycamore School District. And the reports that we've received over the years that we have reviewed, the pie charts, the graphs, we appreciate all of it. And we know that we've been very fiscally responsible in the past. However, I feel like we have started to stray. We all know that, we're supposed to be spending about 3%, more per year, and the board has been spending 7%. So obviously at that rate, we can't continue to keep spending. So we've heard that there are some really high priority and important things that this district needs to do. And what I would encourage you to do is to review that. And in the world of healthcare, we triage. You got to triage what's most important. And then you make those choices and you do that in a fiscally responsible way. So I do know that in the past, we've had a lot more financial expertise on the board. And if you all feel like that is a gap, then perhaps we can consider other ideas like, I bet there are people in the Sycamore community that would volunteer their time that have financial and accounting expertise and could lend their services to the board and provide recommendations. But I do think it's really, really important now that we correct the course of that ship and we try to get back on the path of fiscal responsibility.
Thank you. And next I have Heather Burgess.
Heather Burgess, 11652 Grandstone Lane. So since March, I have sent a few letters to all of you, and I spoke about board ethics at the last meeting. In response to community feedback, I heard you promise to act with transparency and to elevate the level of communication with the community. And I think I want to share my disappointment today that I have not gotten a response to my letters or an acknowledgement of feedback. And I understand you have a lot of folks that you are serving, a lot of different needs, but it's really important that people feel heard by the board. We raised pretty significant concerns, and it's just disappointing that that is not being responded to in a way that, is open and transparent. Rhonda Stargill stood up here at the last meeting and said, hey, where are you on your plans to make good on your promise to act with more transparency, particularly around the personnel issue and the board ethic concerns? And it's been silent again. So I want to share that feedback, and I hope that we'll be able to address it. Thank you.
That was all I had. I have one other, Ellen Owens, but hers is for an agenda item. So that was all I had.
And to say that we are unable to talk about items that are discussed during executive session. Also unable to talk about things that are protected under attorney-client privilege. So just understand that we also do not comment during public participation to any individual matters that you will bring. So we're listening, we're taking in your feedback. We are listening, we hear you. And we are working as a board to address every issue that we possibly can under the abilities that we have. All right, the next item is the superintendent's agenda. And we are going to get a Sycamore High School athletics update from Mr. Ovington.
Yeah, we get to welcome Mr. Ovington back to give a quick update. I thought it would be a nice thing for Mr. Ovington to kind of round out the year, even though his year is not over with athletes, but it has been a little while since he gave you an update, and there's been a lot of good stuff going on in athletics. And I want to make sure that you all realize this is Mr. Ovington's first year as athletic director. It may feel like 3 years and one, but he has done some amazing things to really highlight students and make sure that they have been at the forefront of everything that he has been doing. So I'm not going to steal any more of his thunder. I'll let him talk you through what's been going on in athletics, and he's happy to answer any questions that you might have.
First off, thank you for having me tonight. Mr. Lewis reached out to me a couple months ago about coming to a board meeting, just presenting on what's going on in athletics. I'm just excited to be here tonight to kind of go through just some of the great things that have been happening within this year at the high school level. On there, it's kind of literally a year on a screen. All the way up there in the top left, for some of you that were there or around for the Seeger Family Natatorium grand opening back in July, we did the Carson Foster watch party, which I've said before, seems like literally 3 years ago. It seems so long ago that the Olympics were even just happening that recently. But it just kind of gives you the visual aspects of all the great things that have happened. We have an amazing student section with the Ave Cave. We've had GMC championships, homecoming parade, state champions, district runner-up, signing days, all these different things that have happened throughout the course of this year. That we're all proud of our student athletes. There's so much to celebrate that I want to go through a little bit tonight. So just overall this year, and again, this is only through fall and winter. So right now, actually this week, we have 4 of our spring teams playing for GMC championships. Our boys volleyball team played last night against Lakota East for a GMC championship. They lost, but they were right there for a GMC championship. Tomorrow, we have our girls lacrosse team who's undefeated in GMC. They're playing against Mason for a GMC title. Boys lacrosse has 1 loss in league play. They're playing Mason tomorrow night on the road. So if they win that, they tie for a league title for that. And also boys tennis coming up over the weekend. They'll be playing for a GMC title too. And then after that, next week, we also have track. And our girls track team has won, I think, 3 invitationals so far this year. So they're going to GMC championship, feeling good. So our spring sports isn't even on this, but they're having a tremendous year. So overall this year, 2 individual OHSA state champions. Obviously, you met 1 today. Back in the fall, we had another Ava Besser, who's a junior golfer who won state. We have a team state champion, which is as of last week, which is our chess team. They went up and won a state championship last week. So I think we're celebrating them here at the next board meeting. 3 GMC athletes of the year, which one was Addie, one was a diver named Simon Huth. And then obviously Ava Besser was one of our athletes of the year as well. 3 GMC coaches of the year, 2 GMC championships, a district championship with our boys basketball team, 3 district runners up, which was girls volleyball, girls soccer, and girls basketball. 31 individual state qualifiers, 1 national qualifier, and then 14, which are national qualifiers, our cheer squad, which is the first time they've ever done that, which is qualified for nationals, and then 14 college signees that we've celebrated throughout this year. So just a lot of things to really celebrate for our athletes this year as we've gone throughout. So this is just kind of by the numbers, some of that I already talked about. In terms of numbers overall for athletes for high school and junior high, from last year to this year, we're seeing a growth in the amount of athletes that are playing sports, both at the high school level and the junior high level, which I think is great. Which hopefully means that people are excited about Sycamore sports. They want to be a part of it. And we're seeing that growth within our junior high and high school athletes.
One quick question.
Yeah.
When you list the number of athletes, does that, if one student plays multiple sports, are they counted multiple times, or is that individual students?
I think that's individual students. So there are, so like if Rachel's playing 2 different sports, she's counted once.
Okay.
Athletics profile there on the right is something I've kind of just handed out or given out at certain times throughout the course of the year. Just kind of gives an overall viewpoint of what's going on in athletics, facilities, overview, the amount of sports we offer, and just general overviews of things we can celebrate. As we head into next year, I'll probably take some of the stuff I just talked about and put it on there just as a general profile for stuff going on in athletics. Social media has been a big focal point of the athletics department this year. Just Instagram alone is kind of where we're trying to blow up because a lot of our students are heavy on Instagram. And again, this focus should be on them. And so from the summer, so in July, we had about 665 followers. We're now up to 1,568 followers as of yesterday. So almost 1,000 followers growth within 1 year. And so that's a big focal point of ours as well. And again, like Mr. Lewis said, our biggest focal point throughout the course of this year has been highlighting our students. One of the biggest things here last year and just going through the interview process, like the biggest thing I want to do is highlight students. Because at the end of the day, that's why we're all here, right? And so we've really tried to do a lot of different things this year with athletics. And again, this is a village. This is myself. This is Alexis Newble, who's our sports information supervisor. This is Dan Buchanan, who's our assistant AD. This is Mr. Lewis. This is all community members that come in different ideas that we try to incorporate within our athletics program, because at the end of the day, it's what's best for kids. That's what we want to do. So I already spoke a little bit on the social media. One new thing this year was the Aviator Athletic Council, which is a leadership group. So back in the fall, I asked our head coaches to give me names of great leaders in their programs. And so I had been part of our leadership council throughout the year. We've met once a month throughout the course of this year, and they've come up with a lot of great things. The Aviator Passport, which was their idea of trying to promote multiple events for multiple sports, and like the AVK basically kind of show up to other sports than maybe your bigger sports. So even as of recently, yesterday, we had an Aviator Passport for boys volleyball. Tomorrow we have it for girls lacrosse. And what that is students can show up, there's QR codes, there's a random draw, and sometimes those kids can get gear or whatever. We hand out Nike t-shirts and things like that for the kids if they win that draw. So again, it's just kind of a small thing to hopefully promote kids to come to other events than some of your bigger sports. Athlete of the Week podcast. So our website actually hosts podcasts from multiple different schools throughout the course of the week. Usually it's always on every Monday, and they do it with anybody they represent, so whether they have Princeton on their list, Sycamore, whatever. Most of those are done with athletic directors. One of the things I think is nobody wants to listen to me talk, they want to listen to students talk. And so throughout the course of the year, even though I'm talking right now, and I did ask for some student athletes from our Aviator Athletic Council to help tonight and speak, because I think they'd be better. But a lot of them have rainouts and things like that they're making up so they can participate tonight. So, but anyways, the Athlete of the Week podcast. So students that have won Athlete of the Week, they've had the opportunity to be on that podcast. So the guy that runs the website, Rob Ebel, he interviews them and they get feedback on their season, pregame rituals, things like that, which is really, really cool. And that's always available on our website. So again, putting the spotlight on them. Student videos, which if you go on our social media right now, even as of last week, we have like, sometimes it's like a duel, like Pictionary is one of the recent ones we did with boys volleyball, where one person will draw something on the Pictionary and they got to kind of obviously choose what they think they're drawing on there. So we've done that with two sports competing against each other, like baseball, softball. We did this all the way back in the fall as well. Again, getting students in front of the camera, getting them on social media. We've presented these videos as well, sometimes at games and home basketball games, some football games, also earlier in the year. The OHSAA pregame message is something, the OHSAA has a script of like, hey, fan behavior, sporting behavior that they do at the beginning of the year. We challenge ourselves to do it with student athletes saying it. So we had about 10 different student athletes do a mock-up, and if you've been to an event in the gym or at the football stadium or multi-use stadium, there is basically a video that shows that pregame message, which is coming from the student athletes. And I've said at multiple events or pregame or preseason meetings with our parents that I'm so happy with as an athletic director, so happy with our fan behavior, whether it's students, coaches, and parents in particular. You go around, you see a lot of different behaviors in a lot of different stands, and I have very rarely had to deal with anything like that this year. I'm hopeful that a lot of that comes from that pregame message, because I think it kind of sets the tone that, 10 minutes before tip or game time, you're kind of seeing that message from student athletes like, hey, we're here for the kids. And it's not always easy, but hopefully that's a small thing that leads to a good thing for our fan representation. Sycamore Youth Sports Collaboration. So we've met twice this year with our youth sports leadership. So football, volleyball, lacrosse, we kind of come into one room together like this, and we just sit down and talk about how can we make the gap between youth, junior high, and high school better, and what kind of things we can be doing to incorporate better unity. And they have all sorts of great ideas. We try to incorporate a lot of that throughout the course of the year as well to build better relationships from our youth all the way up to high school. District Athletic Council is also a new thing. We've kind of talked about, I think it's been presented here a little bit before, but this is kind of for emerging sports that have interest in becoming a sport. We've kind of created an athletic council, which is a grouping of myself, other members of the athletic department, the board, Mr. Lewis, head principal, that we come together when there is a possible interest in a new sport emerging, that we kind of have a process for that moving forward, which hopefully gives better alignment for different groups that want to be a sport. So we're looking forward to kind of launching that as we head into next year. Record-breaking breakfast, which we had a couple weeks ago. So any student athlete that broke a record this year in their individual sport, we celebrated them in our breakfast. We fed them during Aviator Bell, gave them a certificate, and kind of just celebrated them. Senior Athletic Awards we did last week and celebrated 140 different athletes with Senior Athletic Awards. Signing days, we've done 3 of those this year, where we celebrated, like I said, 14 different student athletes. We had a junior high signing day. So when they came for opening house this year, back in January, we set up, and I think it's on the bottom right slide there, we set up a kind of like just a signing table, and they kind of had obviously a ceremonial signing that they're attending Sycamore High School. We had a big sign they could actually physically sign with all their classmates, just kind of a cool way for them to kind of feel part of the high school at that time. And then actually as of tomorrow, Mr. Cole is welcoming myself and some of our Aviator Athletic Council members down at the Green School, where a lot of the kids that are interested in athletics, we had them sign up, submit questions, and so we'll do a Q&A with them. Part of it's kind of Q&A with some of our athletes, and then part of it is our athletes going out to recess and kind of playing around with them tomorrow. So again, just ways to bridge that gap between youth and high school. So these are just kind of great things that are happening with athletics right now. Again, it takes a village to do great things, and so I'm just excited to talk about all that kind of stuff. And just the last slide, I think, is always kind of, or I already talked about a little bit about spring sports, but that kind of just gives you an overview of where everybody's at. A lot of teams playing for GMC championships coming up. A lot of good things happening overall in our spring sports, but like I said, I already talked about that a little prematurely. So facility updates. So this is always kind of a common question of like, where are we at a lot of things? So obviously we got a lot of facilities. We got a lot of things that we're very blessed with in this community with our facilities. A lot of things I walked into my first year as athletic director, just very, very blessed with the amazing things we have here. So on the left, I kind of have what's been done, whether it be this year, kind of prior to, and then really what's to come and what's upcoming. So, starting with the main gym this year, we put up team banners, which is that first kind of image on the top there, which has all the league championships, district championships, GMC banners, which is just listing all the GMC schools. We have a fight song banner that's right next to our AFK, just to have the fight song right there next to them. What's upcoming is our state banner. So if you remember back before the gym was renovated, we had the state banners for each state championship that was there. So we'll have those. Sound baffles and finding a sound baffle solution, because if you go in there, the noise is pretty bad in terms of being able to hear. So still trying to work into a solution for that next year. The natatorium, we put up signage for Dan Ketchum and Carson Foster for their Olympic medals. Hopefully, like Mr. Lewis said, eventually Addie Robillard down the road. Team banners for them as well. Also donor and lane signage behind each of the lanes for our donors as part of that natatorium project. What's to come is record boards. So a lot of those record boards that used to be in the natatorium, we want to make sure we get those up throughout the course of next year. Tennis courts, those are done. Those are completed back in September. So those are done, rock and roll, and those are fully renovated. Baseball, softball, phase 1 was approved throughout the course of this year. We are just in the final process of planning a groundbreaking ceremony, which we hope to communicate here soon, with a plan for substantial completion of that first phase by September, which first phase is everything that touches the turf. So the fencing around the turf itself is largely what will be renovated in that first phase. Soccer lacrosse stadium, the Seeger donation was approved, I believe, at last board meeting or the previous board meeting. So we're very, very thankful for obviously Mark Seeger and his generous donation, not only for soccer lacrosse turf, obviously the natatorium, but that donation is allowing us to move forward with our turf, new turf installation, which will happen in June and July of this summer. So that soccer lacrosse turf, which is kind of that third image down there, will be brand new over the summer. Kind of the football posts come down, the football lines go away, and it becomes fully soccer and lacrosse on that field. The track, the shot and disc areas, thanks to our boosters, were newly established this year. So if you go over by the multi-use stadium, there's a new shot area. And then in the grass area, there's a disc area now. So that was completed for the spring. And then planning for a new track. So if you've been at the track, there's a lot of cracking and deterioration of the track. So planning again for a new track in the upcoming future. Wrestling, they've got new mats over the summer and then into the fall. And then again, signage for them and kind of getting them some signage in the wrestling room. Field house lockers went in back in August, again thanks to boosters, that was a big part of that, and restrooms went in as well, and then still working on finding drywall to create office spaces and rooms and storage as well as signage. The Gregory Center is in need of updating, so planning for gym and weight room updating, that's another part of the process for next year. At the multi-use stadium, a long-term process of again windscreen and storage to increase behind kind of the home stands and the 8 cave stands to get some better storage and visibility there. So some of the, like all that what's upcoming, obviously a lot of that, hopefully we can hammer out some of that next year, but obviously that's just kind of a long-term, some things that are coming up. So that is all I got. So I'm sorry I talk a lot. So I didn't realize how much I talked for 4 slides. So
I do.
any questions?
I was just gonna say, I do think it's really exciting, and we can't ever forget the number of people that made donations to make these facilities happen. You know, the Seeger family with the natatorium and the turf replacement, the Sadler family with the baseball softball facility, the Gregory family with the baseball softball facility. You know, we could go on, but you know, without those major donations, our anonymous donor for the multi-use stadium, our booster organization, and all the fundraising they do to make, you know, the ticket booth, the field house, all those things possible, we wouldn't have these great facilities. So, you know, and I think we appreciate the support of the community. I think that's the other thing that we forget in this is a bond issue was passed and they helped support not only new buildings and renovated buildings, but some of these great facilities. So, you know, our students are obviously reaping the benefits of, you know, being here and being a part of something special right now that's happening in athletics. And I appreciate Mr. Ovington's leadership of not resting. He's constantly looking at how can we continue to get better.
And I'd like to say, you know, you've done a really great job with this. I've been through a lot of athletic directors and things like that. You've really put our sports out in people's minds, on the communities and out in places, and really advertised our kids and marketed our kids. And I think that's great. And continue to do that. You've done a great job with this. If this is your first year, I can't wait to see the second year. So great job. So.
Yes, thank you for all you do for our student athletes and for our community.
I really appreciate the fact that you're not just focused on the high school, but you're looking at students at middle school and at the junior high and giving attention to them as well. I appreciate that.
Like I said, it takes a village. It takes you guys up there, it takes everybody in here, it takes the whole community to pull off something great. So just really thankful to be part of this community in a variety of ways. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, speaking of sports and playing and getting ready for sports and getting ready for growing up and being an athlete, we have the Sycamore Playground Audit Update.
Yeah, so we'll have Mr. Zimmerly come up and just give you some information about the universal playground design and what he's found out, and it just gives us information to talk about and discuss.
Well, thank you, board, for having me and giving me the opportunity to share some information. I really just want to share basically information from an audit that we had conducted and really just put some items for consideration out there. And so I wanted to start with the why. And so we were in conjunction with the Treasurer's Department, we were preparing for the financial retreat. And we determined that we needed to really take a look at our long-term capital planning. And so in doing so, over the course of about 6 months, we really looked into what are the kind of detailed needs that we have. And so we partnered with Four Seasons. They conducted a full audit of all of our mechanical, electrical, plumbing, building facade, all of our infrastructure needs that existed. In really close partnership with our maintenance team, really, helping both sides communicate sort of what we're seeing, everything from, chillers, et cetera. And so we gathered all that information, and then we worked with the Bradley Payne Group, specifically Dan Shaw, who you met at the financial retreat. And so really started to put together a comprehensive look at what are all the needs that exist. Through that process, we also kind of realized that we needed to capture the playgrounds, that, that's a potential need out there that we need to put realistic dollars and costs around. So we've partnered with SHP. And so myself and SHP and a vendor, we went and walked every playground and looked at everything from the surfacing, the equipment, the grounds, sort of all the potential things that would go into, needing addressed through this lens of getting to universal design. Basically through that assessment and that audit conducted by them, they came up with the number that was presented at the financial retreat. So that 5.5 million. So that was going to be success. And so the capture was truly looked at within that scope. So when we talk about the surfacing, to get to that universal design, we need a solid surface. And so the surfacing, we looked at options that would take it from being mulch to, either a poured surface or a bonded surface. From an equipment standpoint, they looked at all of what I would call the apparatus, so all the equipment that's out there. Through their audit, there were some opportunities where we could retain some of the structures. And so that way, from a cost saving standpoint, that, we do have some pieces that would meet the universal design concept. We looked at, there's some minimal fencing needs that would come into play, and that's really more with compliance and just kind of capturing, what is currently in place and might need replaced. Contingency costs and permitting and installation. I call that the work that needs done to do the work. And so in order to put in a solid surface, curbs have to be poured around every playground. There's going to be drainage, there's going to be excavation, there's going to be, working with, permitting for drainage, all that sort of the soft costs that exist in doing a project to to meet these needs.
Mr. Zimmerly, it's okay if you don't know, because I don't expect you to be a playground expert, but because when I was looking at your information, what's the difference between the poured in place or what the poured surface versus the bonded surface? Like,
It's a very great question, Mr. Lewis. Next, I don't, so long.
oh, thank you.
Okay, so.
Sorry, I didn't treat you.
Absolutely, not a problem. To dive into that a little bit more, poured versus bonded surface. So, I wanted to spend just a little bit of time of kind of explaining the difference between those two. So a poured is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to be a continuous pour. So they're going to come in, it pours out at about a half-inch depth. And so with that, you can make it, all the pretty colors. You can put a lot of designs into that surface. It's a little more smoother than the bonded surface. With that, again, going back to some of the infrastructure cost that goes into putting in that type of playground. When you look at the curb that goes around, that surface bonds to that concrete. And so you're looking at a half-inch that's going to attach to that concrete. And so that does, create some issues of, the longevity piece of how long and how well is it going to stay attached. With it being a little bit thinner, surface cracks, those sort of things, it does become susceptible to that.
Can I ask a quick question? I know because my son went to the early intervention preschool at Mapledale, they had a playground for children who were in that program because many of the children had disabilities. And it was so that if they had a wheelchair, they could move around and it was accessible.
Yep.
Is that it was like that?
Yes.
And they had problems with it, it kept cracking.
It was
It
a disaster.
was a disaster. Yeah, I know that, but I just was curious if that's what that was.
I don't know specifically offhand, but I would say it would be a similar surface.
Okay.
Yep.
I was here. It was, that's what I was gonna ask is, because it was kind of like it felt
Funny and then.
spongy and it looked like a rubberized type surface, but we had numerous problems with it and it's Ohio. Everything breaks and cracks because of the freeze thaw. So that's why I'm interested to hear about bonded. So go, Mr. Zimmerly, go.
Outside, Mr. Long. So bonded, it's going to ultimately have a similar sort of approach. It's going to be a solid surface. The difference would be it's about 4 inches thick. And so it is also a rubber surface. And so, if you were to stand and look at it, it's going to look kind of like a mulch with a coating over it. And so with that, the idea is that hopefully it would have some longer longevity. It's going to have more surface area to attach to the curb that goes around the playground. And so hopefully with that, that would lead to, hey, it's a better product. When you think about surface cracks and whatnot, if there's less coloring and less, designs put into it, if, our team or manufacturing needs to come out and address, crack that's in there, you're not going to run into as many of the it sits outside for multiple years. It heats, it cools. So, discoloration that happens if you put in colors and whatnot, versus coming in with kind of a clear coat and putting it on, it's not going to be as noticeable. And so, like I said, I thought it was important to kind of describe those differences kind of between the different surfaces because there is a difference in cost. And so, if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, when we look at what that overall number was, that's a big ask. That 5.5 million was with the bonded surface. And so that would be doing the entire scope of what SHP found through their audit. And so, addressing every playground, all the equipment needs, all the surfacing needs, factoring in contingency, all those things go into that option A. Options B, C, and D. What I did was just sort of break down, what if we were to just address the surfaces? To kind of look at, some of our accessibility needs of getting to the equipment that's on the playground already. And so what you see there is a breakdown of some different options of looking at if we did it for all 4 buildings or looking at just Sims and Blue Ash or Sims, Blue Ash, and Montgomery. and looking at what those costs would be to just put in the surfacing, whether it would be bonded or poured. And so within that number, that does include kind of this contingency and, installation costs. So, when you look at the material costs, in essence, you can the factor is about 30% more is with SHP on kind of what they factor in as their holistic expected cost.
You're looking at this just for the elementary schools, not for green.
So B, C, and D, yes, would just be, that's the cost associated just with those.
But even, yeah, okay.
But option
A.
Yeah, option B would not include,
But option A is 5 playgrounds.
would be, that also does include green.
And it might, when we say 5 playgrounds, some of these are broken into multiple playgrounds for multiple schools. Because Sims has, like, one of the options that I think, and I think one of the things that we could do is go back and audit with Mrs. Spencer in our Office of Student Services is, because if you remember last meeting, we heard from a lot of parents from Sims and Mapledale. And a lot of the students that are leaving Sims preschool are going to Mapledale, and I think that needs to be one of the options we look at. I looked at it personally. It was, I think bonded was 715,000 or something around that. And that's 2 playgrounds at Sims, which is a pretty large space plus another space. And then Mapledale was, again, they were all roughly about, I'll just say around 200,000 to 300,000 each for the bonded surface. Because of Mrs. Bitter's comments, I feel the same way about the poured surface. I just don't think it's a good option for Sycamore or for Ohio. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, we heard clearly,
Never use it. We spent all this, I felt like it was like this great idea and then no, and then we couldn't.
and we,
And honestly, the difference in cost to me,
Yeah.
it's not worth the long-term maintenance cost of a poured surface.
Yep.
but we heard clearly from our parents, the mulch is the problem.
Correct.
And then the question was where the students, where the preschools were, what they raised was their preschools are at Sims and Blue Ash. And every single student with a disability in the district is gonna go through theoretically and hopefully they will go through our early intervention program at those 2 schools. So they said, we were thinking at least that we would do those 2, but are you saying we don't need it at Blue Ash maybe? Or is? Blue Ash okay?
I don't know that we just didn't hear that at the meeting.
Right.
I'm just commenting about what we heard.
Have they looked?
I think we
Okay.
probably need to audit to find out, do we have any students that are having accessibility issues at Blue Ash? And if they are,
Right.
then
I mean,
we should address it.
you want kids in every elementary school to be able to play on the playground. If they're in a wheelchair, if they have mobility issues, you have to be able to play. Play is a child's work, right? It's what you need.
And
So-
be with your friends,
And be with your friends and socialize
not
and
watching
play.
them, be
Right.
with them.
So I mean, to me, it's obvious, but how do we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a question for the
Yeah.
board and for you and
Quick question, how often is the replacement on the port and the bonded? Like, yeah, I would assume the port is very quick, it sounds, because I remember Mapledale when it was done and then it was pretty ratty, pretty fast.
So in my meetings with SHP, what the manufacturer will tell you is it's approximately 10 years. There's a lot of factors that go into that, I would say. But it's projected to be at about 10 years.
Bonded.
They said for both. But again, my skepticism would be a 1/2 inch versus 4 inches. One seems like it would last longer.
Is this more expensive you may not know, but I know there are playgrounds that have turfed. Is it
So-
more expensive, less expensive, or about the same?
So what I would say to that, because I asked that question as well, turf falls in between the 2. I will say in talking with with the number of turf projects we have going on, I did ask Moats, they stay out of working on playgrounds with turf specifically, just because of the stringent requirements to be in line with what's out there from the state and whatnot. So,
there's like little things that kids can put in their mouths.
I don't know that it would be the best mobility as well, but I just was curious why people are making that decision.
falls in the middle. And then when you factor in turf or different items that happen, that repair cost could be significantly more than addressing.
One of the things that I do think that needs to be in consideration, Mark did a really good job of saying, okay, if we just did the surfaces, right? Because that's the accessibility that we've talked about, the universal accessibility, able to go from the concrete to the structure. We just focus on the surface. That doesn't negate the fact that we have aging playgrounds. We are in a situation specifically with Montgomery, the older playground at Sims, Maple Dale's getting there, and Blue Ash, where we're getting to that place in time where that equipment's going to need to be replaced. We have great PTOs and PTAs that invest in that, but if we put the surface down, then we're locked in until the replacement of that surface, really to replace the equipment. So there's other variables and consideration that I just want to make sure that we consider as we think about the cost associated with each of those options. And it's not that you can't do it and you can't move forward. You're just, once you put it in, then you start taking things out and you break that surface. That's where, to Mr. Lewis's point, you get water, you get freeze, you get thaw, all that stuff. So
Is there
a realist here trying to think about all that.
I'm just throwing out another idea or thought or question. Is it possible to create accessible paths for the swing sets, for the things that children, I mean, obviously you want to do it all with a plan to try to get it all especially when the equipment needs to be replaced. But I mean, they need to be able to play like tomorrow, spring, right? So is there something we can do that fixes this? Or maybe you already have that.
I was gonna say, so funny you asked that. I did have that conversation with SHP actually earlier this week. And just trying to get some more clarity about what was, thought of the audit. And they did mention that, that is a path that they make paths.
Yeah, we can make paths.
And so, again, sort of the consideration to factor in is you look at down the road equipment replacement. It's very likely that you're going to do a significant replacement of whatever surface you put in. And another thing that kind of goes along with all this is, mulch goes down over 2 feet in most instances. So we're going to get it to where we're putting only 4 inches down. There's stone and packability that has to happen in order to install this. So, a lot of factors that go into a place for kids to learn and grow and play. But definitely, I would say outside of these options that are shown, there are other options. But at least wanted to start some thought process around kind of what does the investment from a resource standpoint.
Would it make more sense? We have to do something, and I support doing something, but I'll be very honest. We do not have $5.5 million in our current 5-year forecast to do this. I wish we did. Do we do one playground at a time? I don't like the idea of I like the idea of doing the surface to give accessibility now, but I don't like the idea of what Mr. Lovell said of you're going to break the surface when you repair and replace equipment. And then all of a sudden it's going to be 3 to 5 years and we're going to have to replace the surface again. We're not going to get 10 years if we start cutting them. I don't know what the right answer is, but do we do one building at a time, but do it the right way?
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we need to look at.
Yeah.
And pick, where playground is either in the worst shape or it would give access to more students.
Sure.
At that. I can see a step-by-step approach. I don't see $5.5 million.
We can probably come back to you with a phase. Yeah.
Not be.
Yeah.
We can come back with a phased approach of looking at kind of good, better, best of here's what we would recommend. And I think we should also, again, these were architects, engineers. We can get a playground consultant in to kind of insert their feedback into what's the best way to tackle this and bring a phased approach back.
Question, why SHP? I mean, I know that they made great buildings for us, but they obviously mark everything up. They're in the business to make money too. Is there a company that does playgrounds that we can just work directly with instead of going through an architectural firm?
Yeah, there absolutely is. I think for the purpose of this, what we knew to be true was that SHP designed the majority of Green and Sims, like, so there was a turnaround that we needed to get the cost, but I agree with you. There are companies that will specifically work with this, that we could do a design build with them on it. This was just to get us to the point to understand what is the scope of what needs to get done.
Question, SHP referring to Steve Hamilton Hall.
That's correct.
Architectural firm.
Okay, I have another question. Does it have to be like, is it allowed to be another material? Like, can you use concrete or like, or is that something we don't do anymore on playgrounds? Like,
Yeah.
so we don't do concrete anymore.
Yeah,
not for.
Metal slides too. That's
No,
what
no,
I grew up on.
no, I'm not saying for everywhere. I'm not saying for everywhere.
Now,
I'm not saying for everywhere, but are there,
I would say to answer that question,
Green has, doesn't Green have?
we could look at, you know, one of the things that's noticed about our playgrounds is that in some of the cases, they are very large in scope in terms of the size of where the mulch is. And so there's always the consideration of, you know, do we scale back that surface as well? So, you know, what do you do around that?
So you only have that surface on a very specific area and then everything else is concrete, because if you're in a wheelchair, and you need to get up close to it. Then once you're able to then get in. So it could be like in the center of it instead of the whole entire space. Right, because it's about getting to the equipment.
Yeah.
And being able to go to all the things that all the other kids can go to. And then I agree, like that 5.5 number just seems so like, okay, there's no way we're gonna do this. It seems so excessive, but we still need to do it. So like, yeah, I agree. Finding ways to find a cheaper, is there another company that might do it better?
I would say,
Can we phase it, right?
the number that was put together, I think was one that was truly through the lens of.
Sure.
We don't want to bring in that's then gonna turn into 7.8.
Of course, yeah.
So trying to look at it through that lens of, you know, realistic, what are contingency costs, what are other factors? And so, you know, some of that was built in to help capture that, you know, we realize that projects like this, you can start to go into a surface and realize that drainage needs, you know, more.
Of soil issues.
No, with other buildings and facilities we built, you know, we've put money, you know, we paid money for a firm to come in and do a 60 or 100% drawing. I mean, is that something like, do they do that with playgrounds to where we can get a firm number?
I think we can probably do it without doing what you just said. Like, most of the playground consultants will do it without doing 50 and 100% drawings. They'll do some conceptual work to tell us, and they understand their costs. So I think we have enough direction from the board right now for us to take that back, work with some of our playground consultants and find the right ones to bring us back some honed in prices that would address
And then I
a
think
phased approach.
we also need to look at the financial piece and how does this fit into the budget? How does it impact the budget? How does it impact, I mean, you take another 5 million out and we're gonna be a lot closer to below our board limits for levies, you know, before 27.
We have $4.1 million included in the forecast right now for all our capital needs. This is not, none of these options are included in there. So it's about prioritization. So if this is a priority, then it moves up on the list and something else moves off. We can't do everything. So if you went, I'm just gonna say, if you went with option B, bonded 2.11 million, and we decided we were gonna do that next year, we would look at the 4.1 million and say, we gotta find 2.1 million to take off of this list. And I'm just gonna say, when we looked at that at the financial retreat, there weren't like wish list things. They were needs. And so we have a true capital project need in this district. And we're going to continue this conversation, but absolutely, we need to get more firm numbers. But also just to be aware, $4.1 million is what we have in the forecast. And for everything. Technology is $1 million of that.
So you really only,
Mr. Long's back there shaking his head, so.
really only had $3 million in our budget for capital.
Mhm.
And then one of the.
Annually.
2 on roofs a year.
Yes.
I have a
Yes.
question. I don't know if Mr. Zimmerly or Mr. Lovell wants to answer.
Could we also break it down maybe with the preschool, kindergarten playgrounds? You could break those costs apart from the other bigger playgrounds that are in those 4 elementary buildings, so so we could at least.
Yeah, I would like to see just the, yeah.
Broken down by actual playground on site at every building, because that way we could also see what that looks like.
Thank you, Mr.
I don't see that. I just want to say for anyone who's listening, like, we know that this is our priority. This isn't like an extra thing that we're trying to, we understand children cannot get to the playground. They can't play. There's kids that cannot do that. And we understand that. We heard that last week. And we are going to address that issue. We just are trying to figure out how to address that issue. And we will come up, you'll keep helping us coming up with numbers so that we can make that decision. And so that and we will also balance our budget, and we will align ourselves with that. But this is a
We
priority.
don't have a balanced
Okay.
budget, Mrs. Spitter.
I said we will balance our budget.
We will not.
Okay, we will
That's
not.
not the way
balance our-
schools operate. We do not operate on a balanced budget.
Okay, we will operate by working to ensure that we are in alignment with all the financial parameters that we are setting for ourselves, as we have been doing. We will continue to hopefully not have levies every other year like other school districts. And we have extended ours to almost 10 years, which is pretty remarkable, twice the amount that we had said we would do. So we will continue to do that, but this isn't, like, this is something we have to fix. And you can just tell us which ones are the priorities right now, and then we can problem solve on this. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, can I please get a motion and a second for out-of-town field trip approval? One.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion, and thank you, Dr. James, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. We have other under superintendent's agenda.
Yeah, just a few quick highlights. Congratulations to all the Altitude Award winners in the district. Those were our Teachers of the Year. Some were specialty awards, just to recognize extra efforts on stuff. And also we recognize our retirees. I think it was a nice event. Certainly gives us room to grow and keep thinking about ways that we can recognize staff. So it was the first ever, and based on the feedback I've received, we'll continue on. I want to give a special shout out to our student MCs. They were the highlight of the night. Beyond recognizing our great staff, Clarissa Ramirez, Sadie Whalen, Brett Kramer, and Lev Newton, they will be missed. I saw Sadie the day after, and she's like, I had so much fun, I would come back and do it again. But I think we'll give next round of students an opportunity. So Sims players, Imagine a Dragon. I went on Friday. I shocked my seat partner because they did not know that I was making a cameo appearance. So thank you to Mrs. Bethune and Mrs. Patterson and Mrs. Mary Wynn Hop, and the students that make us all look good. The students just did a great job. It was a phenomenal performance. I don't know, Mrs. Patterson, how you get 85 kids to do anything together. And there were princesses and Your Majesties. I remember that as part of one of my lines, but it was a lot of fun, and the kids made it fun. And when I got back to my seat, the person smacked me and was like, why didn't you tell me you were going to be in it? Not ruining the surprise. So, and then I believe on Saturday, Mrs. Richardson did it. And then on Sunday, I think Mrs. Ralston did it. So it was kind of a fun thing to be included. But thankfully, Mrs. Patterson gave me a script to read so that I didn't have to memorize lines. Mr. Wapham needs to take notes. For Mrs. Patterson, he put me on stage with no lines. So Celebrate Excellence breakfast was this past Friday. Ashley Friend was recognized as the Celebrate Excellence Award winner and the Teacher of the Year. We took our Aves high school students, and our star students at the junior high. Those are the students, just like Mr. Ovington talked about, a student council, like a leadership council. I have leaders that I meet with. They went off-site on a field trip, and then we visited Hop and Vines for our meal. They've given such great feedback all year. They've done so many different things. they've engaged at a deeper level than I can ever imagine. And get ready because I just sent them an email today asking for volunteers for the Student Ask Us Anything session. So we're gonna probably do that next Thursday at 8:30 in the evening. So if you always wondered what was on students' minds, we're gonna take a leadership risk and we're gonna find out next Thursday. So I already have several responses like, I would love to do this. Junior high girls track, Mr. Ovington talked about our high school track team, our junior high girls track team, back-to-back GMC champions. And it wasn't even close. They dominated just about every event. So congratulations to them. Our SAC leadership, our Sycamore Advisory Commission leadership is changing. Mr. Guerin has hit his limit. So Mr. Guerin and also Victoria Margram, who has been in multiple roles on SAC leadership, they're going to be departing from the leadership. I think Mrs. Margram will still stay on Sycamore Advisory Commission. But so if you're available next Monday at 6:30, we're going to have a little just gathering for them before the SAC meeting to thank them for their work. Mr. Guerin's been really a great support for a number of years. And then you heard Mr. Ovington mention the chess team. They'll be here next board meeting. Two things that I would like to corner the board on while we're all here together. Number one would be a date to meet with Katie for People Fluence during the summer, during June, because I haven't been able to get a clear answer from the 5 of you and the 4 of us to get on one date. It would be nice to be able to hammer that out potentially tonight. And then I would like to respectfully request that our summer board meetings, which no one attends, be moved to like 4 o'clock so that we all don't have to stay till 9 o'clock during the summer. And have those at DO. And I think we did that last year and that was fairly successful. But would like to request that we do that again for the summer board meetings, which I think we have 2 in June, 1 in July, and I think even the first one in August we can probably do. So maybe the 4 meetings, and then when we get closer to school starting, go back to the regular schedule. But
Yeah, I would just like to comment on the altitude awards. I mean, it was a phenomenal night for the district. It was really a special night. One of the favorite nights of my 10 years on the board that I've been to. It was so well done, and the recognition that all of our teachers deserved, I think, was just phenomenal. And to build on to that next year, I just can't wait to see what you do. So thank you to everybody that made it happen.
Yeah, that was it was very enjoyable event, Altitude Awards, and I enjoyed it, and I hope that everyone gave you good feedback. I know there's a survey that was sent out, but it was really enjoyable, and it just makes you realize how we're all connected. I mean, so many of the people that were retiring or that were honored, or my kids' teachers, or my kid, educational assistant, or it's amazing how many people and how we are all as board members so connected to everyone, right? Because our kids' educators. Really, really very powerful way of doing it. And I like how, I know we typically honor our retirees at a board meeting, which I think is very nice and respectful thing to do, obviously, but it was neat to be able to do it like that because we were able to honor the retirees and to really recognize some of the teachers that had received awards. And I know that every single teacher should receive an award because every single teacher is amazing. And so our educators are, but it was a very nice event. So thank you.
I will say we've gotten some great feedback and some great ideas to really add to it. And, one of the things that we're going to do is change the name from Altitude Awards to the Altitude and Legacy Awards, because really it is the retirees leaving a lasting legacy of excellence here. So I think we are going to create a special award for them on top of their gift so that they understand that that's where the idea started from, was for our retirees, because I like the board meeting as well, but I also feel like they deserve a bigger, grander stage to be recognized and celebrated. So that's where it started, was thinking about our retirees. So we're going to come up with something for them. But also I've had great feedback from people of, have you considered this? Have you thought about these ideas? So it's really keeping us moving on okay, we did a great job, but what's the next layer of getting it to the next step? So keep that feedback coming, staff, because this is about you. This is really about celebrating all of our staff. So excited for next year, but thank you for your feedback and thanks for being there. Yeah, really appreciate it. And if you guys can come up with a date for People Fluence, June 26th, I think I sent it out today. That does not work for everybody. I thought we were there, but we're not there.
Did we not all respond to your request for dates?
It's just been varied, so, and I know people are busy and emails get buried, so if you want me to resend it, I can.
Please resend it and everybody will fill it out.
Yep, I can do that. And if Doodle is not a great, I'm sorry, that's what it's called, but if Doodle is not the best way, I can send out a Google form.
No, you can send that. It's just
Okay.
send it out. I think most people have filled it.
And I can also add
If
dates.
anyone's missed, please fill it out.
Yep.
Again, we will get that and I will make sure, I'll go on there, make sure everyone's filled it out and we'll do it.
So if
You
we've
guys
already filled it out, do
okay?
we need
If
to
you
do it
didn't fill it
again?
out, you don't need to fill it out again.
Okay, so be the same one.
Yeah. And then are you guys okay with the summer meeting schedule?
I am.
Is 4 o'clock work for everybody? Does it need to be 4:30?
You're not in.
4 o'clock's fine.
In school, but, I'm not sure of my schedule for the summer.
Okay.
How's that?
And it doesn't have to be decided tonight. Will you let us know?
We can do that. I mean, I think that would work for me.
Okay.
And if you,
Check on it.
you,
Dr. Steve,
there were times
let us know.
to do it early though. You don't want to do that?
You mean like in the morning?
Yeah, I thought because that was sort of because
If that works better for everybody, I can do that as well. But
I'm fine with 4 PM, but if anybody feels like a morning is a better way, because remember,
I like the morning.
because that way we can go to work after that, then we don't have to come home. I have to leave work early to be there at 4. I can do that, but
I don't mind.
be very
I
open.
prefer morning.
Yeah, hey,
I can do more.
sign me up for that.
Okay,
I have to
but not like 7 in the
Oh.
morning. How about 8 in the morning?
8's fine.
7:38 kind of thing.
About 5 in the morning.
It says 9. No, we're not.
All right.
Okay, why don't you look at your calendar and see if you can do some mornings, if we can do all morning,
We can definitely move.
or
You're not gonna get an argument from the 4 of us and probably anybody back there. So,
we'll just suggest the times and then we'll confirm it.
yep, sounds good.
All right, can I get a motion and second for the personnel consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your motion. Thank you, Dr. Steer. Second, Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Dr. Steer,
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Hi, welcome. All right. Okay, so our next item is the treasurer's agenda. We are going to have a discussion, which is a continued discussion of our 5-year forecast update assumption discussion that we have had on multiple. And we're gonna continue to have that because
Yeah, it's that time again. So we got this question actually at the ABC committee and I thought, wow, I feel like we need to take a little bit more time and even describe and explain what is the 5-year forecast and how often do we do it? So the 5-year forecast is done twice a year. And that 5-year forecast, the original one is done in November. And then in May of every year, we take a look at what our assumptions were in November, what's actually occurred throughout the year, and then we make adjustments. So it's an update to the November forecast, basically. So you can go. So for tonight, our purpose tonight is just to review what has changed since we looked at this in November. And what do we want to do based on the changes that have happened? Do we want to make any changes to our assumptions at this time? So again, just to review, the forecast does only include the general operating fund and any general fund debt. And Mr. Ballant, I know you brought this up at the last meeting, so I thought it would be important to share this. So we do have general fund debt. We have 2 energy conservation bond issues, and one of those mature December of this year. The other one matures in 2032. And then we also have district office bonds that mature this December. And we have debt on Blue Ash Elementary. And guess what? It matures in December of 25 too. So when you take a look at our 5-year forecast and you look at our debt payments and why are those reducing, that's why they're reducing, because the majority of our debt is falling off in this December. So that's good. It provides 3 years of history. So 2022 through 2024, and then 5 years of projections, which include this year, 25, all the way out through 2029. We do use it as a management tool. We use it for planning. When we start talking about possible levies for the future, the document that we utilize. And so I know there's lots of discussion about moving this back to just a 3-year forecast. I will tell you that even if by state, we're only mandated to do a 3-year, that is not long enough, especially when we're going to the community and saying, making promises. If we're asking for a levy, we need to project how long that would last. I also just want to say it is a snapshot financial report based on the information we know today. So what did we assume when we looked at that at our forecast in November? It feels like we just went through the total revaluation of property in Hamilton County. We're going to be looking at an update again in calendar year 2026, which would be collected on in 2027. Just as a reminder though, as those values increase in Sycamore, the millage is rolled back. So effectively, we do not collect inflationary increases. So I just want to state that. We are assuming an 11% increase, which is half of what the reval increase was in 2023. I still believe that's a reasonable assumption. And then as far as state funding, we did not assume that they will phase in the rest of the Fair School Funding Plan. I'm just going to say, I think we should not anticipate any additional money from the state because it's a disaster right now with all of the discussions and trying to figure out what will happen. So I think this is still a reasonable assumption. I will say the governor's budget proposal, as well as the state House of Representatives, both of their budget proposals had Sycamore receiving an additional $2 million over the next biennium. We do not have that included. We are not assuming those additional dollars. So.
Nor should we, because they're not guaranteed.
That's right. That's exactly right. And we still have a long way to go with the state budget.
If it's approved in June or in June, it'll be in the next November.
Exactly. Yes. Our next forecast will actually have the impact of that next biennium budget in the forecast. So when we look at the revenue assumptions and we say, okay, what did we assume in November? And then what do we believe is going to happen now in May? Now that we have 2 months left in this fiscal year, how are things looking? So operating revenues, we projected in November, and what we're projecting now in May are 1.35% close to what that estimate was. What are the changes?
But we're down 1.3.
We are down. Yes, we are down. The taxes and TIF payments, remember we talked about the total revaluation and what happens when you see values going up by over 20%, you're also going to see a lot of challenges to people's property values. What happens is when they challenge those values, and if they win that challenge, then they receive a refund on their taxes. And we are seeing that happen actually with our revenue. The all other revenues, that negative almost 600,000, that's TIF revenues. And TIFs are, so that's tax increment financing. And what happens there is it's our businesses and economically developed districts. And instead of receiving them through tax revenue, we receive them through our TIF payments. And so they occur on that line item. But what has occurred with a lot of the businesses is they've challenged their values and they've won those challenges. And so we've received less revenue than we expected. And also, the other thing that I want to point out here is on advances in, we talked a lot about those projects that are a partnership between our community and the district, a lot of the 70-30 projects. And so we advanced money to those funds to make those projects happen. And then as those donations start coming in, that money needs to be advanced back to the general fund because that was a loan, and advance is a loan. We had anticipated that 2 million of those advances would come back this year. It's going to be more like 1.5 million, not 2. So that's the other big change that I wanted to point out.
There's the $1,000 variance. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just going to be later. I was hoping it would be this year, but it's going to be later. We're going to need to push that. So now moving on to our expenditure side. In November, we assumed, first of all, our increases for wages, anything that is included in our negotiated agreements are in the forecast. And what we decided was anything beyond when those contracts expire, we should assume 3% increase in the base wages. So that's what's included. We also assumed, based on our enrollment, that we would not add any additional full-time equivalencies, any FTEs. So that's also included in the assumptions. We included 10% increase for our insurance, healthcare, and then purchase services and materials and supplies. We assume 3.5%. And then again, we've talked about this, but the $4.1 million transfer to PI, and then 135,000 goes to our athletic funds.
So Mrs. Logan,
Mhm.
it's 4.1 even before the playgrounds. We talked about at the financial retreat that this is a fixed amount, 4.1 per year in the 5-year forecast. It does not take into account inflationary costs that we've seen with buses, with roofing, with paving. Not in this one, but obviously in future discussions, I would challenge that number needs to increase. Whether or not we put the playgrounds in there is a different discussion, but even just for the routine, continual maintenance of our buildings, it's going to go up as costs go up. So I think we need to put an inflationary number in future 5-year forecasts.
I agree. And I think that the tool that we looked at the financial retreat is going to really help us as we plan for what are our needs and what should we put in this forecast for the transfer moving forward. I believe when we looked at that, we all were pretty, I don't think any of us were shocked, but we realized the 4.1 million did not meet all of our needs. And that's without putting any additional things on that are needs as well. So yes, the good thing about it, I encourage us to have another, I know you all love the financial retreats, but I would encourage us to have another financial retreat in the fall before we do the next 5-year forecast.
Yeah, I think that would be key. And I think it would be really looking at this 4.1 million. Not only is it enough, are we going to start to work other projects in there? Are we going to move priority of projects down to really hone in on this number? Because that's a big number, but it's not big enough.
Agreed.
And obviously increasing that number is going to change a lot of the future financial scenarios as well.
And we'll know more then after the budget passes in at the end of June too, of what we're actually dealing with.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would.
I agree. I think we should do a fall retreat.
We'll start looking at dates. On Also, I think we should consider projecting increases higher than the 3.5% for selected purchase services and materials and supplies. I mean, who knows what is going to happen with materials and supplies? We're hearing a lot of things in the news, but I would suggest that we use 5% there. And then when I say selected purchase services, we're gonna move into like what actually happened with purchase services. And I said this at the last meeting. The one that I'm really concerned about is purchase services, and we're gonna look at what actually happened there. But I believe there are some that we need to increase by 5%. And utilities, I think we need to even look at even higher than 5%. Also, the transfer and advances for the baseball softball project, which we have approved doing phase 1. So what that would look like is a transfer of the 30%, which would basically be $1.1 million. Then we would advance $2.5 million and get that back over time. So when we look at our expenditure assumptions, again, we're spending more than what we expected, but it's 1.3% higher than what we estimated. So it's still, we weren't far off overall with our estimates. The purchase service account, though, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time. I know Mr. Burson back there knows I've driven him crazy. I have dove so deep into purchase services to try to figure this out. And there's so much included in here that I wanted to just kind of walk through some of these. Our substitutes are purchase services for the district. And so we assume a number based on what we've seen previously. But what we didn't assume, we did have some related service personnel that occurred after the year happened, that we had to utilize services that we were not expecting to do. And that was $80,000 more than what we expected. Our PD expenses, which is not a bad thing. We're investing in our staff. I hate to call that expenses because that's an investment in our staff. But it was over our estimate. We are investing in our staff more than what we have. It's above the trend. So it was hard to estimate, but that one is definitely up.
Is that the curriculum?
That has something to do with the new curriculum.
That is our professional development for our staff. That is training, that all of those type of things, going to conferences, bringing people in. We've done a lot of leadership training, those kind of things.
But it's not related to the new curriculum and getting trained on that. It is, that's included, everything.
Any of that would, I'm sorry, yes, that would be included too.
I would think that we would have a significant increase based off of the new curriculums. I mean, that makes sense, actually.
And I also want to say that the coaches that are included this year and next in the forecast to help with that new curriculum, that was $600,000, that commitment. And that was already included in our estimate. And so you don't see that on here, but it's included.
For the public, coaches are not athletic coaches.
That's correct. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you for that clarification. That's right. Instructional coaches.
English language arts.
Utilities were over our estimate by over $120,000. We looked at just gas and boy, did we have a cold winter. Yes, I know we're all feeling that at home.
Our bills are often associated with what they call peak demand days. And many of our peak demand days that we experience. So basically they say these are going to be a cold snap. It's going to be hot. We're going to look at your usage and then that's how we're going to determine billing. That was during construction. And so there were many times we were heating buildings very much to keep the flooring down, things like that. That was in the past, but that's what's built forward. And that's a lot of what we're seeing as well with our utilities is playing catch up from construction.
We're filling it this year.
Yeah.
Our special education tuition is over our estimate by $350,000. That total line item is 1.5 million, just for perspective. Contracted transportation was over the estimate by $150,000. And payment in lieu of transportation was over the estimate by 27,000. And I didn't mention this on the revenue side, but our state revenue is down from what we projected. And the reason for that is we have less riders on our buses. And so our transportation revenue is down by over $200,000 because we have less riders.
Wow.
And that makes sense that our payment in lieu of would be going up as well. Because we have less riders. And then CCP is college credit plus, and that is up, and we're seeing that go up, and that's a good thing. We're giving our students more options. So then when we talk about, okay, our revenue came in less, our expenditures were more, as far as our cash, that makes our cash less than what we predicted. So May forecast versus November forecast is to the tune of $3.1 million, less than what we expected. Which means that our our fund balance that we're predicting at the end of this year, which is 41.7 million, it represents basically 40% of our total expenditures. Remember what the state budget, the House version said. The House version said that school districts should only have a maximum of cash balance from year to year of 30%. And what that means by their version is we would have $10 million more than what we needed in our cash balance. And we know that when we look at our 5-year forecast and we are completely running out of cash in 2029 based on our assumptions, that this is not a realistic expectation of schools. So I just wanted to put the graphs, and I know right now okay, yay, got it to all come up. So I wanted to just kind of show the operating revenues, those percentage increases from November to May. And I'm just looking at 2025 through 2029, basically. We were predicting 4% more this year. We're actually getting 2% more in our revenues. But then moving forward, the average is going to be about 1.5%. That's where our revenue growth is what we're estimating. And when we look on the expenditure side, we were predicting 7.1% increase in our operating expenditures in November. And what I believe is going to actually occur is 8.5% above what we spent last year. And then moving forward, I've made some adjustments, but it's still pretty close to where we were last time we looked at this. Still about a 4% increase average over the forecast.
Yeah, and I do just want to point that out, Mrs. Logan, because we did have a community member talk about where we were this year.
Yes.
That's not sustainable. And we all had this discussion during our financial week. It wasn't sustainable.
Correct.
That number is closer to 4, and we might even challenge you a little bit lower than that.
Yes.
But, you know, looking forward, our prediction is not 7 or 8% growth per year.
No, it is not sustainable. That is not what we're projecting. And we've talked a lot about financial parameters. We had talked about bringing that resolution for financial parameters, that commitment to our community at this board meeting or next board meeting and adopting that. And we decided it makes sense to wait until we find out what's going on with the state budget and then finalize that. But we're all still committed to a financial parameters resolution. So we've just delayed it until we find out what's happening at the.
So do you have a timing on when you think the Senate will pass budget?
There was testimony today in the Education Committee. We have been told that the timeline is quicker than what we are used to. But I will still say it's going to be right at, when's our second meeting in June?
No, I
You
mean,
might know.
even for the state, because the Senate version comes out next and then they have to reconcile.
And then they do
It goes to the governor.
Mhm.
Have we seen the Senate version?
Have not, lots of discussion.
But we don't know when that Senate will.
Do you have
come.
any sense of how?
The Senate seems to be friendlier, and I hate to say friendlier. I don't mean that they're unfriendly. They are
Supportive of
more
public
willing to listen. They're more willing to listen. And so
Yeah.
we're hopeful.
We heard a little bit from Senator Wilson. I mean, he remains optimistic that there's going to be a return, and I don't know that Jenny and the treasurers and the Fair School Funding team feels that way, but he felt that there would be a restoration of, or at least some implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan. And then, or at least that's the discussion that he's involved in. And then also, he made a mention of something else that was on the tip of my.
Did you say anything about the cash balance?
Oh, the 30% of, for our cash reserve, that they're really more interested in why, and I think they're not understanding the full, picture of everything, because I heard you say it again today, there are 400 school districts that are on the 20 mil floor. And that creates, I think for them, the issue that they're targeting, which is people, it's almost like it's beneficial and people can get more money and bank more money because of being at the 20 mil floor, and that's not us. But I think we are advocates for all of our colleagues, because I don't know that they're attacking the problem as much as just identifying something that they want to go after to feel like they're giving tax relief. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm not a financial planner, and I'm not played one on TV, and I probably shouldn't be talking about some of the things I'm talking about, but I would say Senator Wilson at least gave us a picture of some positivity. But again, that's one person out of all the people that have to vote on this. So we continue to remain hopeful, but doesn't mean that it's going to be all positive. And there's still, as Jenny said to our city leaders today, there's a lot more to go before we feel confident in that conversation. So.
Correct. And so then when we take a look, and this is the chart that I always use, revenues, expenditures, and cash. And that green line is our cash. And you can see that it falls off the cliff basically in 2029. The red line is our board policy that says that a minimum cash balance should be 25% of our expenditures. So it just kind of shows you that in 2027, fiscal year 2027, we fall below that line. That's why we have talked about in our financial retreat, and we talked about it in November. When is that right time to go back to our community to address the need that we have? And we have talked about calendar year 2026. And that goes along with this chart as well. So any questions you might have? Now, you're not being asked to adopt the 5-year forecast tonight. We're talking about the assumptions. And then at the next, we'll get the 5-year forecast, all these numbers. You'll also get the assumptions packet like this with all of the notes that detail all of the information that goes along with the numbers. So any questions?
When you say that you said that you think that we need to increase utilities and selected
services.
purchase services. Are you saying that for the you're saying you suggest to us that that you increase that percentage on the 5-year forecast?
For November.
For this May.
Okay. So are you so that's what you would recommend to the board. So when you bring us the 5-year forecast, that's what you're going to recommend.
And I'll talk about which ones that have been increased above the 3.5%, and there'll be justification for it, like
And you'll have it
what has happened.
in your report, which is exceptionally helpful, and the public will get that, and you'll be able to see every single detail of the
Yeah.
reasoning behind every single item on the 5-year forecast, which I really appreciate that you do that. It's exceptionally helpful. Thank you.
But you're not recommending for the May any increase in the 4.1 capital.
I am not at this time. The only increase as far as transfers to PI that will be included in the May forecast is the money that has already been committed for the baseball, softball project. And the changes would be in the November forecast for the if we change the 4.1
Okay, thank you.
commitment. Thank you for your time on that.
That was good. Okay. Can I please get a motion and a second for the resolution accepting amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion, and thank you, Dr. James, for your second.
This is just we do this every year, just for, your information. We have over 70 mills that, inside and outside mills that have been voted on. We collect 25 mills, just for perspective.
Thank you. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant?
Aye.
Dr. James?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Dr. Steger?
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter?
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second to authorize the treasurer CFO to reimburse Ryan Shillington for Airbnb expenses incurred for $2,420.63 during a student robotics trip?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
And I do want to just say that this involved students and mentors, coaches, parents. It wasn't just one person for the Airbnb. I just wanted to make that clear. I wanted to make that clear.
Know that.
Yes,
And also, remember, they did a presentation for,
yes,
explained all of that too, but
yes.
always
Wanted to put it on the record.
say again.
Typically stay in an Airbnb, right?
No, that's why I'm asking for approval. Lodging is traditionally done through hotels. And so this is outside of our normal activity. So that's why it's on. Yes.
Are they guided to, in the future, stay
In
in
hotels.
hotels?
Yes,
Okay.
we are working on transitioning that. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Ballant,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Dr. James, Dr. Steger,
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second to adopt reimbursement resolution baseball softball project?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second.
And all this does, this is just gives us an option. We've talked a lot about all the needs for capital projects. This allows us, if we so choose, we would need to borrow that money because we need to hang on to our cash. This gives us an option of borrowing and reimbursing ourselves. That's all this does.
Okay, Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Dr. James?
Aye.
Dr. Steger?
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter?
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second to accept donations?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Steger, for your motion. Thank you, Dr. James, for your second. Thank you to the community members who have made donations. We really appreciate your donations to our school district. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Dr. Steger?
Aye.
Dr. James?
Aye.
Mr. Ballant?
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Okay, so now we're under other board business and we have had some community outreach regarding the Vouchers Hurt Ohio discussion that has been brought to us as a board. It's something that we have been talking about as a board. And I know that Mr. Lewis has given us, and I don't want to speak for you, but generally you have given us your preference to alternative areas of advocacy for the district. But I would like for the board, to have a moment and a time to discuss the topic. Because, I think it's important. We're getting outreach from the community, and it also has to do with public education funding for schools. And, so I would like to bring that to the board for discussion. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say? Mr. Lewis, if you would like to begin, feel free. You don't
Sure.
have to, but if you would like to, please feel free.
The only thing I would say is, like, whenever we get asked to join a lawsuit, my first call is to our legal counsel to just understand, the components of being a lawsuit. We've been asked to join other lawsuits and other actions and, in discussion and just trying to understand what would be the benefit or a discussion for Sycamore. I would just say in consultation with legal counsel, it hasn't seemed to be a huge benefit for us to join the cause or the lawsuit, so to speak. I think the advice of legal counsel has been, do you believe that joining this lawsuit is beneficial for the school district? Is there anything that you feel like that is happening that you feel like the district needs to join in on? And I would say at this point, I have not been interested in bringing a recommendation to you of that I think we should join. But, this is really your guys' decision. If you think we should as a district, I'm only one person with just, again, checking in with legal counsel and just trying to understand all the components of whether or not that I think that would be beneficial to the school district. And, we had one of our legislators tell us vouchers are not going away. And it would be a waste of our time to spend a lot of time fighting it. So when I hear things like that, I just feel like my time is better spent on things that I know make an impact on our Sycamore students. And I can't say that I'm going to spend a lot of time, in the Vouchers Hurt Ohio realm, because my job is, what do I need to do for Sycamore students? I agree with some of the arguments that I've heard. I haven't done a lot of research on what the lawsuit says, but from my standpoint and talking with our legal counsel, I've tended to stay focused on Sycamore business and not state business, but that's my opinion on the topic. So I don't know if that's.
I was just gonna ask, do we have a community member who was going to speak on vouchers?
Well, let's ask the board, the discussion first.
Could you just briefly for the public explain what this lawsuit is about?
Oh, yeah, I was like, me?
Either one of you.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as I can tell, and I get emails just about every day about this very topic. There is a lawsuit basically saying that it's essentially unconstitutional to give funds from the state to private schools. I don't know where it'll end up, but, listening to our legislators, again, they're not backing down. That's not going away. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen from a legal standpoint. I don't know that we have a lot of control to tell the state where they spend the money. You've heard me quote these stats before. I'm concerned that they've spent $1 billion to expand vouchers or expand opportunities for 4% of Ohio kids. Those are facts. 96% of the students that were attending private school are now receiving a voucher to attend private school. So what do you think the private schools are doing? Raising tuition. So it's not helping anyone. It's not expanding school choice. It's, in my mind, it's expanding the opportunity for the kids that already could afford the opportunity. And that's not, no knock on.
Do we have any idea of the impact on Sycamore that might from the state for our community members?
Well, one of the benefits of the Fair School Funding Plan, one of the things that we requested and they agreed to was before the Fair School Funding Plan, we used to get funded for the kids and then we got deducted. And it showed up as an expense to us. Now they are directly funding anything like that. So that's a good thing. It doesn't come off of our money. So number one.
They deducted it once a student left Sycamore and went to a private school.
Yes. But any scholarships or anything like that. And now they're directly funding those.
Is that going to stay like that?
So what I will say is that there's only so much money that the state has to appropriate. And to Mr. Lewis's point, the amount that has been allocated for vouchers and the expansion of that continues to increase. While at the same time, public schools, when we saw the governor's proposal, it was a decrease to the majority of what percentage of kids in the state of Ohio attend public schools?
90%.
90%. So the 90% of kids, the total funding for those children actually saw a decrease while the 10% saw an increase. So I think when I get asked the question, like, how does that impact Sycamore? It impacts public schools because there's only so much money. And so if they continue to take away money that could be for other things and continue to fund vouchers, there's just less for everybody else. For Sycamore, in 2023, we had 32 students who were taking vouchers. And last year it bloomed up to 516. So just to kind of give you an idea, and to Mr. Lewis's point, when the discussion started, it was about failing schools. Sycamore is not a failing school, but it was to give choice for parents who really wanted their children to have an experience somewhere else because they believed their public school was failing their children. And that's not the experience here. And what we're seeing is now these vouchers are going to children who've never been in a public school. They've always attended the private school, and that's what's happening. I will also say, though, we have so many things against us right now, so many things we need to concentrate on to make sure that the negative impact to us is minimized with this state budget, that this one, if we brought this in as well, I think it distracts us from all of the other things that we need to be concentrating on, which is making sure that that Fair School Funding Plan model stays in place, which brought us up to 10%. And today during testimony, we requested it be increased even more. So I feel like we need to just focus in on the main things. We've got all of these property tax reform that is important. We have members of our community that need relief. But some of the things that they're looking at for property tax relief is going to negatively impact us and everybody else. So I worry that it's not that it's not important. The voucher fight, it's not that it's not important. I just worry that right now we need to stay so focused on what we need to prioritize that I worry it would just take our attention away. Not that it's not important.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm very concerned about it, but what you're focusing on now to me is.
And I would say the other big concern that I heard at the state level was the way Ohio funds schools has been found unconstitutional multiple times. That was when it was being funded at 40%. The current budget drops it to 32%. So if it was unconstitutional at 40, I'm guessing it still remains unconstitutional at 32. I'm not a judge, but
Yeah, I would just like to, you want to go?
I was just gonna jump in real quick. For the community members, again, I'm gonna reiterate that you've heard all of us say we want to level the playing field. If people are going to get vouchers, contact state legislators, because things like testing, like private schools don't have to take state tests, the public schools do. Let's see, we have to enforce truancy in public schools, private schools do not. Those are things you can actually ask to have changed to make things a little bit more equal between public and private schools. So
And students with disabilities.
students with disabilities don't have to be accepted into private schools. So just remember that there are things you can send letters, call, whatever you feel like you want to do to try to help out leveling the playing field with vouchers actually currently going awry, I think is a good way of saying it at the moment. Thank you, Ms. Bitter.
I would like to say that I mean, I've been reading all of the information as well. I've been talking with you. I know as a board, we have been talking about this as well. I feel like the timing is much closer now than it ever has been before. I'm reading through just the general, we get a lot of letters and we get information all the time, but the lawsuit is, you know, it's challenging the constitutionality of the current voucher system. And it's doing that because they want as many school districts to sign on as possible, because if right now we have over 600 school districts, around 610 or something. So let's say 250 have signed on so far, and people who are really impacted by the school districts and other areas. Is it 300 now? Okay, so it's increasing. So if, you know, school districts that are very impacted by this, especially urban school districts, rural school districts, they are getting hammered by this. Suburban school districts, maybe not so much, but I can tell you Wyoming just signed on. So what the pressure is coming now is, or the questions are coming now is, if we all join in, then they have to listen to us. Now, we're like a little over halfway there, which is great. I agree with what Jenny's saying though. For Sycamore right now, we have this budget that could crush us. It really could. So we have to use all of our advocacy energy, I think, as a board and as a district on that right now. But my question would be, could we join it like right after we find out? Like, is it something that we should, I feel like the time is either near, it might not be now, but I feel like it's getting closer because we have to stand up. I believe Sycamore needs to stand up and say, we believe in public education and we're going to stand behind it and we're going to join this. That would be me. I'm one of 5 people. I don't know that I would do it right now. I agree with what you're saying and with what you're saying, Mr. Lewis. I think we have to, it's so much going on right now. However, I feel like I'm in the near zone. And I think we have to, Sycamore, if we're a leader, so if we stand up and do it, I think others will too. That's my position. And again, I'm not ready to do it right now because I feel like we need to honor our treasurer.
Like I said, I agree that the priorities now need to be focused on making sure that maximum cash reserve is not put in the state. Right. Because like Mrs. Bitter said, that is going to, not only is it going to crush us, it's going to cause us to go back to the community probably every 2 years and ask for more money. And then we're going to start to get into levy fatigue, starting to get into failure, potentially failure of levies. And that's big time.
And this,
So I think we focus on that now and we come back, we circle back to this in July or August.
Yeah.
Know what it is.
And I don't think this is any shade towards private schools. Like, we like private schools. We're fine with private schools. All we're saying is, first of all, we are a public school district, so we have to advocate for public schools, right? And for private schools, they don't have the same criteria. They don't have the same high bar that we have, but yet they're getting a lot of money, and it's coming out of the public school money. It's coming out of the fund. So for the whole, it's pie in this example. So if we don't stand up for it, our community will also likely not be happy with us as well, because I do believe our community feels it too. And you're right, we need to be, like what you said at the auditors conference, like we need to be helping elderly people keep their homes. I mean, they need tax relief. Like, we're pitting school districts, what the legislature is doing now is pitting school districts against voters and community members, basically, via public education cuts, which is really, really tough. So we have to figure out how we're gonna navigate it. But that's, I think you're right, waiting till like July or waiting like a little bit later and then having the discussion again.
I think that's a good idea too.
I believe we had public participation from some, would you like? Yes.
Ellen.
Come on up here.
Ellen Owens.
Yes, thank you, board. Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. On vouchers.
And I just want a friendly reminder, you have 3 minutes, we're gonna be
Yes.
consistent, just so you know.
And I didn't know what you already knew, so I'm trying to
Sure.
go, okay.
We don't mind hearing it again.
I know. All right. In 2000, I put together some talking points that I will make copies of for the board about the voucher situation. For 2025, your number of vouchers increased 1,671.9% for private schools. 96% of Sycamore's vouchers are not for low-income families. Only 3% of Sycamore's vouchers are for low-income qualified families. Since year 23, when the education choice voucher expansion lifted the income cap, applying for private school vouchers, there's been a 4,466.7 increase in the number of vouchers in Sycamore Public School going to families that are not low income. If you did join the lawsuit, it's $2 per student. It would be less than the cost of one high school voucher. I'm not saying that you, anyway. That would be $6,204. Each Sycamore public school student is valued up to $6,250 less than in pupil state funding when compared to the state per pupil funding for each private school student. This stuff it blew me away. So each Sycamore public school student receives $2,149 in state per pupil funding. Each high school voucher student receives up to $8,407 in state per pupil funding. That is $6,000 more to each 9 through 12 full voucher student. Each K through 8 Sycamore voucher student receives up to $6,165 in state per pupil funding. That's $4,000 more that the voucher students get. Each Sycamore School District would receive almost twice its current state funding each year, $12,860 and $644 versus the current funding of $6,866 and $903. If Ohio would fund.
That was 3 minutes.
I'm sorry.
That was 3.
Okay, I'll leave this with y'all because I have, I spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, I'll read it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. We appreciate it. Yeah, I think that the other thing to remember for all of us is that, you know, like what you said, Mrs. Logan, that these were intended to help children who are living in poverty or who are in low income, and that's why they were created to begin with. And now it has exceeded that to every single child, right? And then there also were vouchers, it wasn't called vouchers, but I think it was Ed Choice for students who have like autism or disabilities, and that's not what, no one here is trying to say anything about that. This is more about just the massive increase in funding that's going to students that are not students with disabilities and they are not students living in low income families. So that is what's at issue. And it's not that we care deeply about our private schools and we want them to exist. And we're very proud to be partners in our community with them. But at the same time, we are a public education institution and we have to advocate for public education. As board members, that is actually one of the duties and roles that we have. So I'm glad that we're having the discussion. We appreciate the public feedback. If you would like to give us data or information, please feel free to do that.
So what would the thing be for me if I Xerox this and send it to the board members? How do you want to receive it?
You can just email it to us. That would be fine. Yep, sure. Thank you. Okay, we have on our agenda also the Education Foundation discussion. Mr. Lewis, would you like for me to, I think I generally know the subject that you would like to talk about, and you and I kind of connected on this. I do think you will have to chime in as well.
Sure.
But we, over the years, have talked about possibly, we've been talking about education foundations. That would mean, we have, my argument has always been, we have education foundations, we just have many of them, right?
We do not. We have community foundations, Mrs. Bitter. They're not education. Operation Give Back and Bridges are community, neighborhood community organizations. They are not focused or associated with Sycamore schools.
I don't know that I agree with that, but I'll respect. Okay. So either way, we have foundations in Sycamore schools that care a lot about our students and help support our students and our school districts. And so we've had a discussion is we should create something called an education foundation. And we had an attorney come and provide guidance of what types of education foundations could be created. And that is our discussion. We are bringing it back because I believe Mr. Lewis community members have spoken with you about the subject again. And so we put it on the agenda for a board discussion.
I think there's just a lot of frustration because they feel like, what's the next step to finally move it forward? But I think Mrs. Logan did some investigation and found out at some point Sycamore did have an education foundation and it may have folded at some point back in, whenever it folded. I've been here 14 years. I didn't know that. So I think there's some additional investigation. My feeling is, and I just would like to get some head nods from the board. This is really not, and you all can't really weigh in on a foundation. It's not really the responsibility of the school district. It's not managed by the school district. This is a community initiative that they have to get behind. Someone has to get behind and run it and move forward with it. And so and Mr. Lovell, I think, was in the meeting with me where the boosters were very interested in seeing this get off the ground because we do know, and I've been hit a couple of times, there are people out there that want to give their donation. And there are great people that donate to Operation Give Back. There are great people that donate to Neighborhood Bridges. But an education foundation would directly support some of those things that we can't afford. And I think there are people that want to give to those initiatives. So there really has to be a community groundswell of people. I often say this, I'm embarrassed that we're behind the 8 ball because there are so many different school districts around us that have these and they're operating and they're running and they're efficiently running and they're running galas and doing all these fundraising activities. And then I just sit here and I feel like we just constantly spin on this topic. And so SAC did a lot of research over the last, I think they've done this project 3 or 4 times. Like, we just have to have someone step up and say they want to take the ownership of it. And it's not any of you 5. It's not your responsibility to run a community foundation or an education foundation. So I approached Mrs. Bitter to put this back on to say, this really isn't a board decision and we need to get it off our plate. We have more important things that we need to discuss. We do need to let our community know that it's, hey, we are ready for it. Bring it forward. Let's find the people that want to be on the board. Let's find the people that want to step up and run it. And let's get going and really get it off of our docket of things that we have to deal with, because this isn't it. for us. So that was my discussion, and I know I may have jumped in front of you, but if there's anything else that you have to add to that, but
And I will just add to that. When I was talking with Mr. Lewis, what I've said in front of the board many times is, again, I'm thinking of it more from the legal aspect. It's a foundation, meaning it's a nonprofit, but it may not be the technical word, education foundation. And I cannot remember, I think we had a presentation from this attorney on this September of last year. So I can't remember the exact definition of the different types that exist, but there is a foundation, a nonprofit that serves Sycamore School District in many ways. And that's called Operation Give Back. It also assists children in other school districts as well, or in at least one other school district as well. And it provides families with food. It provides children with, who need tutoring, low-income children. It provides holiday gifts for them at Christmas time and different holidays. It's really been a very, very positive, supportive organization for Sycamore students and families. So that's supportive, and it's for their education as well.
But it's not for the school district. They're
I
not
understand.
giving money to the school district for an endowment, for scholarships, to build universal playgrounds, to help with athletic facilities. They are for the benefit of community members.
So organizations like Operation Give Back provide, they provide, like I said, food assistance, more long-term assistance for people that need help. Then we have something called Sycamore Bridges, which handles more immediate emergency type needs for students. So in our community. So it's like pretty broad. It is students, like students who go maybe to the high school counselor because they couldn't afford, they want to be in the band class, but they can't. So the Bridges will get them an instrument, let's say. Or let's say they don't have clothing because they're homeless, so they'll get food, or they'll get clothing for that child, and they do it like that, like it's fast. So it's like one's like long-term need and one's short-term need, but it's all for Sycamore. It is for Sycamore students. So all I am trying to say is that I think foundations are wonderful. I used to set up nonprofit organizations. I believe in them. I think they're wonderful organizations. And I think especially if they support Sycamore schools, yay. All I'm trying to say is this. I believe that Sycamore Bridges and Operation Give Back are serving extremely important needs in this district right now. So if we create a foundation, and I don't run Sycamore Bridges, none of us do, and none of us run Operation Give Back, and we will not be running an education foundation. We are not allowed. That's the legal advice that we received, unless we create our own very specific one that we run. And our treasurer has said that would not be a good idea because financially you're mixing money, right? That's really risky. So if we do this other foundation, all I'm saying, get one person, just please talk to the organizations that already exist and be a team together. And I believe that education foundation, of course, would do that, right? If you want to build playgrounds and raise money for playgrounds, that would be wonderful. We would not have any problem with that. But just please, I think that if they would all work together, I think that'd be great. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but it's just not going to be us.
But we've already, just to verify, we have already heard from both Operation Give Back and Neighborhood Bridges that they are supportive of this, that this does not interfere with their mission at all.
Yes, and yes, I know that. And I'm the one who requested that they do that. I agree. That's the only hang up I've had this whole time. But I do think it's important that Mr. Lewis has brought it back because he's getting the public to really ask more questions of how to do it. And for anyone listening, it really will be, they're going to be using the Sycamore name, right? So money will flow to that organization because of the name. And as we know, there used to be a foundation and it fizzled out or something happened. So there is some, by the way, legal risk to when you allow others to use your name to receive money, that there is oversight by the district. So it's not that we won't be at all involved. It's just we won't be involved in the day-to-day of it. So that would be important to know, like, what do we have to do? I know I got the award from the OSBA, but I did actually take a training on that exact topic through them. There are some legal requirements by the board if they do it because they're using our name for their education foundation.
Yeah, still, I feel that this is something that we really need to get up and running. And I understand what you're saying is that the board can't run the foundation. But someone has to start this.
Mhm.
And there are many school districts who have foundations, and these foundations receive money from donors. And they have guidelines on how those monies will be spent. It could be for scholarships, it could be for school improvements, et cetera, et cetera. And they're not stepping on the toes of other boosters and whatnot in other districts. So I think this is a very valuable vehicle for us to raise funds. But how do we get that started if it's not a board run foundation? How do we get it started?
I actually met with someone a couple weeks ago. Mr. Lovell and I met with someone who is very interested and has already researched the legal part. They have people who have raised their hand and said they'd be willing to be on the board or anything else. They also believe they've even identified some donors who would help get this up and moving. So I think we're moving in the right direction. And hopefully we'll be able to give you an update soon. But there are, I will say there are members of our community who have been activated to get this started.
Great. It's good to
That's
hear.
great. Glad to hear it.
So are they talking to you as they are moving through this developmental stage? Okay.
Now,
I'm
can
glad
our
to hear
school
that.
legal counsel support ensuring that all the legal things are covered for us and for them and?
Yes, there is a portion of that because one of the questions has been come up, well, can legal help with the beginning of this? And to Mrs. Bitter's point, there, as it will be Sycamore, there are portions of this that legal is going to have to help advise through. So yes.
And I do want to say, although I know I'm adding, I do want to say that a lot of education foundations from the schools that we've looked at in other districts, that foundation itself does what Bridges and Operation Give Back does. So just know that. Usually it's wrapped up into one thing. In this instance, we will, if we say we're going to do it, we're going to have some different stuff going on there.
So but the foundation doesn't have to be.
That's right.
Like that.
Correct.
It can be very different
Correct.
depending on.
Yep, absolutely. But that's why I've been bringing it up so much. Because when people think of Education Foundation, they think, oh, wow, this is wonderful. I'm going to give money and then I'm going to help that student who's like have a food pantry, right? Or I'm going to get shoes for kids. Like that's usually what education foundations do, right? They, at least the ones we researched, they do.
I think if you look at the mission of whatever the foundation is, it's going to be very clear what it does.
Right.
Yes.
The point I'm just saying is that's why all I'm trying to do is protect Bridges and Operation Give Back. And if they already themselves have said, we're good with it, we have no problem, we think it's gonna be great, then I have no issue. I just wanted I'm being a stickler because I just want to make sure that we're protecting those two organizations that are doing very important work and we will need them, especially in the days ahead. All right, yeah. Last item, other.
Yeah, I just have one thing. I requested at the last meeting that we talk about the resolution and how we're going to move forward on it. And that was not on the agenda. So I'm going to make a second request that at the next meeting, we talk about the resolution we made and the steps we're going to move forward. We got head nods from everybody, but again, it's not on the agenda tonight.
Well, we could talk about it under other. We can talk about it right now. We said we were going to talk about it at every meeting. We can talk about it right now. Would you like to give an update?
I'm not the one to give an update. I want to know how we as a board are going to move forward with the resolution.
I believe everybody individually has to do their own. Understand that we received.
Our own self-reporting to the ethics, but that's just one.
That's just one.
Right. Okay, well, then we'll put it on the, then
Why don't we put it on?
yeah, we'll put it on the next time, because we need to figure out what exactly, how we want to go about doing that. So yeah, absolutely. Let's do that for the next one. But individually, I mean, there are some individual things that I'm working on my own individual things, but I think that there's a lot of it is individual.
There
Some
has
of
to
it
be a
will become
vehicle to do
group.
it. If we're going to talk about campaign finances and post it on a district website, I can put mine together, but there's no place for me to put it right.
I think you just
If
sent
you're
it to
gonna-
Jenny. I think we have to send it to Jenny Logan. I think we
But
already
that's
said
the whole
that.
point.
We did.
We've never come up with a vehicle.
Put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Sure, let's do that and then we'll talk about that. But the answer is gonna be, just so you know, it will be to send to Mrs. Logan. And then Mrs. Logan will make sure that is up on the website. That's what we said we were gonna do.
But I would like to see timeframes put together, commitments made that we're gonna do this by a certain period of time.
And the community has to do that.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, let's do that.
I've added it to the draft agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah. All right, meeting is adjourned.